So, what's this course about? It's important, I think, to start with a set of learning goals, especially because gamification is a novel concept. It's not something like introductory physics, where it's obvious what a course is going to teach you about. So there are four things that I hope that you will get out of this course if you stick with it all the way through, watch the videos, do the homework, and so forth. The first is to understand what gamification is. The second is to understand how it might be valuable. The third is to learn how to do it effectively. And the fourth is to understand some specific concrete applications of gamification. So let me say a little bit about each of those. What is gamification is not obvious. Gamification is a new concept, and in many ways it's misunderstood. So we'll talk a lot about understanding just what gamification is and what it isn't, as well as some of the history and some of the context for this emerging business practice. Then we'll talk about how gamification can be used and why it might be effective. And notice I say here might be. Gamification is a powerful tool. And I'll give you lots of examples of companies and other organizations that are successfully applying game mechanics and applying other lessons from games to address their problems. But it's important to have some measure of skepticism, to realize that gamification isn't right for every problem. It's not by any means a panacea. And furthermore, doing gamification requires you to understand how to do it well. And that's why we have this third learning goal to talk about how to do gamification effectively. You can understand how gamification might be relevant to a problem, but you need to understand the different techniques, the different components that you can use, and the pros and cons of different forms of gamification in order to know how to do the right sort of thing when faced with a particular situation. And finally, some applications. There will be examples running throughout the course, some of them in for-profit business contexts, some of them in nonprofit social impact kinds of contexts. But we'll look towards the end of the course at some specific domains like inside the enterprise and for social good, where there are particular issues that come up with applying gamification. It's important to note this is not a technical class. There are no technical prerequisites. There's not going to be any coding involved. It's also not a full-blown game design course. So there's no requirement that you be familiar with any of the technical or aesthetic aspects, artistic aspects of being a game designer. We're going to talk about some of those concepts in the course because in order to do gamification effectively, even just as a business person, you need to understand something about game design. But there are no detailed prerequisites involved. Anyone who has a basic kind of understanding about online services and about digital technology will be fine understanding this course. The structure of the class is a series of pre-recorded video lectures like this one. There's a total of 12 units of material that we'll cover during the 6 weeks, and each unit is further subdivided into short segments. There are often embedded quizzes that will pop up. The video will stop and ask you a multiple choice question. Those aren't graded, they're just to test your comprehension of the material that's come before. If you're taking the class for a certificate, your grade will be computed based on 3 factors. One is the multiple choice homework assignments that are available each week in the first 4 weeks on various topics that we cover in that week, as well as some of the ones in previous weeks. The second component is a set of written project assignments, which are worth 5, 10, and 20%. These will be peer graded. I'm going to give you a series of realistic scenarios for gamification and ask you to come up with your own ideas for applying the techniques we describe in the class to gamify those scenarios. I hope that you'll take the time to do this, whether or not you're interested in getting a certificate in the class, and I really hope that you'll take the time then to review what others have written and be conscientious in grading them. I think you'll find that you learn a great deal, not just from your own experience in working on the projects, but from seeing what other people have done as well. And then finally, there's a final exam, again, multiple choice, worth 30% of the grade. All of this, again, I certainly hope that you will take because it will improve on your learning experience, whether or not you are focused on the certificate. And in case you're thinking about this or asking, the class is not itself gamified. A lot of what I'm going to teach you is that gamification is not necessarily simple or easy and not always the right solution. I didn't feel like I could fully implement gamification in this course given the time and the constraints of the online structure of it in a way that would truly improve the learning experience. That being said, there are lots of instructors in both K-12 and higher education that are using gamification in lots of fascinating ways to actually improve the quality of their classrooms. I'll talk about some of them later on in the class. But that being said, there just might be a little bit of gamification here and there in the lectures that you're going to see. I mentioned all of the stuff behind me on the bookcases. Keep an eye on it. You might notice some changes, some things that look different from video to video. And if you really notice what's going on, you might notice something else from time to time appearing back there, and who knows, maybe a message. Now, this course is novel in a few different ways, which I wanted to highlight here at the outset. The first, obviously, is this new method of open online delivery. That's something that has been used in certain experiments for the past few years, but has really expanded greatly only recently. So this is a new way for me in teaching, and probably for you, a fairly new way in learning this kind of material. But this course in particular has some other aspects that distinguish it even from other courses that use this mechanism. The first is that gamification is a brand new concept. As I'll talk about, it has roots that go back many years. And it's going to draw on some very old concepts in psychology and management and so forth. But gamification as a phrase to describe what I'm going to talk about is really only a couple of years old. And as I said, just understanding what gamification is not universal today. So we're going to have to start by learning what the concept is to begin with. The third thing that's new is that this is a new course. I've taught on this subject in person at the Wharton School at Penn. In fact, I think that I offered the first class on gamification for business that had ever been offered anywhere at any university. But for this massive open online version on Coursera, I rebuilt the course entirely from scratch to take advantage of some of the unique aspects of this new kind of online environment. The first session that was offered was in fall 2012, so this is now the second offering of the new Coursera course. And finally, this course is about practical knowledge, which may be somewhat different from some of the other courses that you take on an open online platform that focus on understanding concepts. This is not necessarily about theory. There's a lot of theory that we'll touch on that goes into concepts we discussed in the class, but this is a course ultimately that is designed to give you some practical knowledge. That's designed to help you understand how gamification is used today in the real world and how you potentially can be someone who uses it yourself. Now, as we go along, I'll point you to various resources that you may find useful if you want to get additional information on some of the course concepts. There's also some linked on the syllabus, which you can find on the course website. There's no required reading or text. However, two resources at the outset that you may find valuable. One is gamifyforthewin.com, a website that I set up after a symposium that I helped to organize on gamification. It has a blog and a variety of links to useful resources. And secondly, my book, For the Win, How Game Thinking Can Revolutionize Your Business, which came out at the end of last year from Wharton Digital Press. Again, it's not a required text. You'll find that the material in the book tracks along to a large extent with the concepts in the course. It's a resource that if you want to get some additional examples and a deeper understanding of what we talk about, that I encourage you to take a look at.